yeah, so I think on some level maybe they know that it's going to take a little more than that to really make their point, and they do. They always do, I mean, like, I know one girl, and because it's like, and I never realized how I never realized to what extent this mindset, even before I started to realize, really understand who I was, like I look back on it now, and like I would walk in these houses or these homes, like people, like tons of people, like 6, 7, 8 people in the living room, and I would sit on the floor, and I never even noticed that. I thought that I've always kind of had that like a kid like nature to me, and I've never minded sitting on the floor. I mean, sitting Indian style, and not to say like sitting in the middle of the floor like I'm, the center of attention type deal, but just, I would give anybody my seat, or I would sit on the floor, even if there was a seat available sometimes. And I look back on it now and I realize that that's because there were times when subconsciously, being on the same level as a person, my spirit, I guess, would make it seem as though I was speaking down to them or looking down on them. And that's purely a reflection of their opinion of themselves, not my opinion of me or them. But without even realizing it, I had began to sit beneath them in a way, I guess, to counteract the feeling already that they had of unworthiness, and I even asked, this guy one time, like around this period of my life when I was around these, I say these people, I was around people that seemingly, like, I mean, I really were just like me on paper, but anyway, so they, I was asking this guy one time because I said, first of all, my feelings are not as fragile as most people's, and I'm grateful for that, but I don't, part of that has come from the fact that they have been, like, if your feelings were muscles, mine are big and strong, but only because they've been ripped to shreds so many times and they've had to come back. The healing process has made them stronger and larger, but it's not without, like, I've paid a price for that, but, and then I continue to pay a price in the fact that people don't realize that, so they assume that my feelings are as weak and feeble as theirs, but they're not. So, when I say these things, I mean it when I say, hey, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm really just trying to gain a bit of understanding, because I see the lack of, I see the disconnect between me and the majority of the people that we fuck with, I'm just trying to understand maybe what it is, because, at the end of the day, I can't change who I am, but if there's something that I'm doing that's giving people a wrong impression of me, I think, I don't think it's crazy for me to at least try to understand that, and maybe if it's just who I am, I can't change who I am, but if it's something that I'm doing, I'd like to at least try to adjust that in a way that allows me to be able to interact with people, I mean, I don't want to not be, I don't want to be disliked if at all possible, I don't need to be liked, but I'd prefer not to be disliked everywhere I go. I don't think that's wrong. So, anyway, so he said, after I convinced him that I really meant it, after he finally was like, okay, you really can tell me, I really want to know, he said, you come across as condescending. And I'm like, okay. I'll never forget that. Not because it hurt my feelings, but because it gave me so much insight. It really helped me to better understand. Because really, it feels that way to people who have never been treated. I mean, even just, I worked with a guy a couple years, well, it's been several years now. It's been several years now, but it was 4 years ago. But I worked with a guy that literally was so offended by me, by everything that I did. And I finally one day just asked him, like, what is your problem with me? Like, what is it? What's your problem with me? And he said, I just see right through you. I see you're fake, and you have this whole nice thing about you that everybody else is buying, but I don't buy it. I see right through you. And I said, okay, well, I want you to know that it's not fake, but I want you to know that I just won't speak to you anymore. Because if me saying hi, how are you doing, if that's so offensive to you, then I just won't speak to you anymore. And I would appreciate the same in return from you. Well, of course, the next day, he was just as offended by me not speaking to him. It's like, really, that offended him. And and it was because literally just me saying, hey, how are you doing? I treated him in a way that was so foreign to him than what he was used to that he could not believe it. Could not believe it. And do you know that now, 4 years later, I say 4 years later, I mean, I worked there for almost a year, so it's been, and then this is probably 2.5, so about 2 to 2.5 years since I left that job. 3 years since I left that job. 3 years since I left that job. In the past several months even, my boyfriend has went there, and do you know that the people there still ask about me? Specifically him. Him more than anybody else, ask how I'm doing. And says to tell me hello. And I wonder why that is. I don't wonder why that is. I don't know for sure. I can't know for sure. But I want to believe that it's because at some point in his life since then, at some point in the time since I left there, he did realize that just because he'd never been treated with respect, and the fact that that level of respect being so minimal was so foreign to him. Just because he never felt that before didn't mean that it was fake. It just felt fake because it was so foreign and so different from what he was accustomed to. And I got way off track, but going back to the beginning as far as the good intentions, when we fast forward a whole month later, when we were sitting in eviction court, and do you really not have your, you're about to piss me off. You have pissed me off already, so go away. Go away, because you took your diaper off again. No. Okay. So, anyway, I sat there quietly because I knew full well that anything I said was going to be misconstrued, and I was not going to, even though I was pretty confident in what the outcome would be, I knew I definitely was not going to in any way assist in that, So I stayed completely silent. And then the only thing really that I said was in response to this. So our landlord, he told the judge, he said, do you know that I told her, I said, I do think that you have good intentions. Your Honor, do you know what she said back? Do you know what her response to that was, to me saying that I believe she had good intentions? She said, how do you know that? And he just looked at the judge like, Your Honor, that's what she said to me. She said, how do I know that her intentions are good? And the judge looked at me and I said, it's true. Because that's the level of not just manipulation, but distortion, and really just altering reality to the extent that, I mean, it's disgusting to me. It infuriates me that I'm sitting in eviction court because this man tried to tell me that this other girl was a whore, and I said, well, I don't know how that's any of your business. And he said, well, you just need to leave her alone. And I don't even want to get into the whole thing because it really is sad. It really, really, really is sad. Because this girl had never had anyone. And I didn't need, I wasn't, you know, like, I'm not this broken person that, like, oh, I need to, like, take care of people. But no, I wasn't. But I knew that she could use someone that genuinely cared for her. So even then, I approached her with the absolute highest level of caution that you can, because this is also a very wounded person, you know. But because I didn't play along with this narrative that this dumbass, idiotic, just literally like this, oh, like I can't even come up with words to describe the level of, like, just, it's disgusting. You know, but he had this idea in his head that he needed to play out, and it didn't play out the way he wanted it to, so he evicted us, you know. And my point is that I am where I am now because I have so many stories like this. Really, the place that I am in this very moment is a result of all of these instances where people were just idiots. Because had it not have been for that, and had Darla have called me and said, did you want to rent this place? I would have said no. No, because if it was any place worth renting, we would be begging you to rent it to us, you know? Why are you calling, asking us if we're still interested? And even more, like, why are you leaving the day that you leave? Like, why has everybody on the block been just peeping around the corner, just eyeing us, just anxiously awaiting what's going to happen, what we're going to do, you know? Why is that? And why did David make such a big deal out of us being the head of the, like, the what was the word that he used? You know, we were the face of the neighborhood, you know? We were the front, like the head of the table, basically. Like, we were the face of the neighborhood. And by neighborhood, granted, it was a four lot trailer, like, not even a trailer, like, it was like a road, like a dead end road that led straight to the set of Nightmare on Elm Street, mind you. Like, literally, there was nothing to be the face of, but he made this, you know, made such a huge deal. Like, he just stressed the importance of having the face of the neighborhood be, you know, one of integrity and respect and all these things, which I never would have seen it that way because, like I said, he's a joke himself. But then, so we move here. Lo and behold, this is actually quite a large neighborhood, you know? Now, granted, I have not even allowed myself to really look back there because it wasn't long after I actually glanced, literally laid eyes on the back of the property that we were living on before this, you know, and really, like, when I say this, a scene from Freddy Krueger, like Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, I can tell you the exact scene. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say it looked like a wasteland, like a swamp with, like, you know, whatever those trees are, like cypress trees, like kind of like coming up from the marsh, and like just it. The only reason that I even and I didn't, and it's these things that you do kind of like subconsciously, like I by nature want to explore and learn and see everything all the time. So it never even occurred to me that I never even looked behind me. Never even looked behind me to see what was in the, you know, like on this property that was in my backyard. And then, you know, barefoot pregnant bitch tells me, you know, yeah, you know, the neighbors that live right across, you know, like right there, you know, like a stone's throw away, they're, you know, deranged, schizophrenic, you know, like pedophiles that just like whip their dick out and you know, chase my weenie dog with a butcher knife. These are things that she actually told me. And I'm like, well, no wonder I didn't look back here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we lived there for a month. And the thing, and this isn't even scratching the surface of everything that unfolded. You know, like, when we went to rent the place, and I'm talking to this guy, and I'm, like, offering to send pay stubs and stuff, and he doesn't want any of that. You know, I told him about the dogs. I sent him pictures of the dogs. Well, come to find out, go figure, he does not like big dogs. My dogs weigh more than me. My dogs are huge. I sent him pictures. Give him all the information about the dogs. So I'm looking out the window one day, and I see this dumbass park a car. Now, not his car, mind you. A car that he had bought at an auction or something, like a silver Mazda, like, car. He parks it in front of our house, like in the front of the, you know, the road, gets out, walks around long enough to where he knows that I'm gonna, you know, by this point I'm gonna have seen that something's going on outside. I'm looking, and this dumbass just takes off running towards the back of the neighborhood. So I call Kristen. I'm like, hey, there's a man like on foot, like running towards your apartment, you know, seemed kind of odd. She's like, oh my God, it's David's dumbass, you know? Well, a few days later, this time the dogs and I are outside talking to dumbass landlord David. And don't you know he does it again? He takes off running. You know, I told the dogs to come back. But I asked him, I said, why are you running? You just told me these dogs, that big dogs scare you. You parked your car. You told me you parked your truck in the back of the property where no one could see it. That's what he texted me. I could probably still pull up the text where he said this. And he takes off running down the road on the property on foot with my dogs, you know, right beside him. How do you explain that besides a person just being a full-on idiot? I really don't know. But this is a man who told me that he is sent here from God. He has the gift of discernment. In case I didn't know what discernment was, it's the ability to see whether people are good or not. I'm sure this goes without saying, but he felt the need to elaborate and say that he could tell who he had my number, you know. So, an idiot, just an absolute idiot. And it's because of dumbasses like him that I am where I am right now. And because I am not a piece of shit like them, that I have really, every time, every situation, despite how ridiculous, I've continued to take responsibility for my life, which I will continue to. I could have actually got infuriated by the painting and threw it out in the yard. I really wasn't that mad. I'm just going to have to work even harder to find ways to cope with the things in my life that I have no control over, and find ways in which it's a lot more difficult for them to be disturbed by external factors. Obviously, Scripture, the Word of God, the Bible, the Bible, I guess that's a book for me. It is something that I find extreme peace and solitude in, and I find that even if it is possible for that to be disturbed, the Bible even warns about this possibility, and really instructs that we, bury the words in our heart so that no man can take them from us. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to let that be the weapon, one of the weapons that I hold in my arsenal, to combat this very deliberate attack on my peace of mind. And it stays like today when I just want to give up. I just want to go to sleep, or, yell, which I probably have, which is okay. But it's days like today when I really want to let my mindset shift completely out of it's taken years to develop, and just say, fuck it. But, and this is the last thing I'll say, maybe, probably not. As Danny and I were talking the other day, just kind of out of the blue, I said, do you know what retrograde means? Because, all these astrology gurus, and spiritual, let me not be passive aggressive, or I'm just waiting for the moment to pass when I'm not going to be condescending or really just be an asshole, because it's very, very, it's really just flowing out of me naturally right now. These people that, have platforms, related to astrology and, that spirituality, all that. There's like this Lionsgate portal, and then there's this retrograde, in like Mercury or something. I don't know because I don't listen to it, because I know that several days ago, probably five or 6 days ago, I saw more clearly and plainly in front of me the cycle in which everyone has been going through, forever, basically, and how intertwined they are, and how destructive they are, or like in a very subtle, like dull knife kind of destructive way. And I saw that, and I felt like there was this deep, like, inner, like, I felt like God was telling me, you really, really need to dive deeper into Scripture and really, really stay focused on that, rather than, but while being very consciously aware of these patterns and how they all intertwine, And so I'm seeing that. I'm seeing like these things that happen every time, all, like it, all of these things that are like seemingly unrelated, but they're not. They're all related, And so, and my best friend, of course, like that goes MIA about around this time every month or every cycle, you know, and she tells me, and I was like, I'm just so tired, you know, I'm so tired. And she said, you know, it's the retrograde. You just gotta, I'm just ignoring it, or I'm not letting it get to me, or something like that, you know. And so that night I'm sitting there, like, Danny and I are eating dinner, and I went, what does retrograde mean? And he's like, and I said, well, upgrade or downgrade is, you know, it's like a, you know, it's regarded to, like, you know, the level or the state in which, or, you know, there's levels to this shit. That's what I keep thinking. And retro, I want to say would mean, and this is just really just me in my mind, like just trying to decipher this. Retro means reverse or backwards, specifically as it relates to time, I would believe. So I remember one time being at a thrift shop, and something was vintage. I remember asking or Googling or just basically having a curiosity about the difference between vintage and retro. And even now, I don't remember exactly what the answer the answer was, but basically, I think vintage is, I don't remember, because I just know that retro means to go back in time. So a retrograde, you know, I would assume means, you know, whatever, like if you upgrade or downgrade, retrograde would be like a lateral move in time. It would mean going back in time. I mean, I'm gonna have to look it up, and I didn't look it up because you know, and this is after, you know, educate yourself. You need to educate yourself, you know, and that, you know, knowledge is my people perish because of lack of knowledge, you know. But it's not knowledge that saves you. It's the wisdom that can only be given by God, combined with the knowledge that you have to first seek out, you know. So I mean, like, the knowledge would be seeking out information on these things, you know, literally just obtaining information is all it is. It's just the, you know, it's just the simple act of obtaining more information on a specific topic. But the wisdom that it has to accompany it, that would really, that would be the only way it would even make a difference, would be the wisdom that is given by God in conjunction with that knowledge. So to me, that would be the knowing, or the epiphany coming of, like, retrograde really just means starting the cycle all over again. So, you know, when I get on my phone and I see, like, the first thing that pops up, and I don't even, like, I have TikTok because my friend sends me these things, you know, and I watch them because she's my friend, and if she cares about it, then I care about it, and nothing more than that, you know. So when I get on there, the first thing I see is, like, this girl that is, I mean, and I'm saying, like, I don't speak on things that I think I probably have the right to speak on, or the, like, that I would be qualified to speak on these things. You know, I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, yet I do not have the conviction that these people have. You know, I don't have the, I mean, these people speak with conviction, and you're not, I mean, and which is great, unless you're feeding people a load of bullshit, which most of them actually are. But if it sounds good, and if you know that the audience that you're appealing to are going to be people that are just seeking out, they're just searching for something, and they don't even know what it is. And the only thing you all have in common is the fact that you are all seeking for something that you don't even know what it is. And most likely you are regurgitating information that you received from someone else who was like you in that sense. You know what I mean? And it's said with a level of certainty and confidence that just really I can't even compete with. It's just very believable, you know, and you have these catchphrases, you know, these words that are just like so powerful, you know. They're like, it's almost like hypnosis, you know. I mean, it's almost like a form of like mind control to some degree, you know. It's this neural, what is it, like the neural linguistic, you know, like hypnosis pretty much, where they're saying things like chosen ones, and you know, you're going to be catapulted into this new dimension. And, you know, I mean, it's like they say things that sound so good, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And they talk about things like narcissists and stuff, which it all sounds good because either you are one or you've been abused by one. It's all the same. And it sounds so good to think that you are an empath and you are this angelic being that exists among, you know, lions, that, you know, you're just this you know, this lamb, you know, amongst wolves that is just somehow managed to rise above, you know, all this abuse. And the fact is, if you were to take the description of a narcissist and then the description of an empath, and you were to change out the words, I don't know that there would be a difference. I don't know that if you were to really like research, like say you were to Google traits of a narcissist, or how a narcissist, like why people, like where does it start? Like what happens? Where does it go wrong? You know, I mean, let's think about it. Let's talk about it. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to start a new video because since I don't have my podcast thing anymore and I can't flag it when I change topic.